you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
Just point it to my head, then pull the trigger. I can do this!
It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night. You gotta shake it for me. It's a wonderful night.
Remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. What's up, everyone? I am the Kaiju no Kami from the Toku and Animation News Network. And today I'm going to take a look at Discotek's Blu-ray release of Robocop Jiban. He's half human, half robot, all cop. The year was 1989, and the Showa Emperor had just passed on. A new emperor took over, declaring Japan to be the Heisei era. This new era would lead Japan into greatness, with an abundance of TV shows that would focus on character development just as much as it was on heroics. To kick off the Heisei era, Toei hired cop drama writer Noboru Sugimura to helm their next installment of the Metal Heroes franchise, which needed some fresh blood, even though the last series was pretty fresh. Sugimura had previously worked on various Lupin the Third Part 2 episodes, a show called Sukaban Deka, and the second half to Kamen Rider Black. This new series would take influences from Robocop and mesh them together with aspects of Metalder. What we got was a superhero cop drama titled Kidou Keiju Jiban. It was actually kind of funny because for years it was believed Robocop was influenced by Gavin, so to have a show based on Robocop comes full circle. Except that rumor about Robocop being based on Gavin was false. So really, there was no circle. But hey, it sounded cool. And of course, Sugimura was not hired to kickstart the first show of the Heisei era, as Jiban was in production long before Emperor Hirohito passed, making my first point moot. Jiban was airing when TV Asahi decided to change its time slot 10 weeks in from Sundays at 10:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Kamen Rider fans should be familiar with that slot, as that is the time Kamen Rider took over with Kuga until 2017. Garo fans should also be happy to know that Jiban's monster designs were done by Keita Amamiya. So, what was the point of all this then? To give Noboru Sugimura an epic sounding introduction. Because why not? Seriously though, is Jiban a stellar introduction for Noboru Sugimura and a return to form of the Metal Heroes franchise? Or should this show be locked away in a prison without a key? Watch to find out. The Heroes. Jiban features a single robotic hero who has to take up the task of fighting monsters by himself. I like this guy already. Well, okay, Jiban is not technically on his own, as he does have a partner in crime fighting by the name of Yoko Katagiri to assist him, but he might as well be. However, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me start at the beginning. An evil crime syndicate known as Biolon has started to terrorize Japan. One day, a lone detective named Naoto Tamura came across a scientist and his granddaughter being hunted down by some sort of creature. Naoto valiantly sacrificed himself to rescue the duo. To repay him for his bravery, Kenzo Igarashi, with the help of the head of the police department, Seiichi Yanagita, resurrected Naoto into a cyborg cop that would be able to stand up to the Biolon threat.
Kidou Keiju Jiban.
Unfortunately, Igarashi dies after completing Jiban, leaving his granddaughter Mayumi and Yanagita to assist Naoto at all times in taking down Biolon. Mayumi decided it was best to not inform her parents of this ordeal to keep them safe. A decision that is very wise.
もしバイオロンに知られたらきっとまた襲ってくる。恐ろしい連中だからね。パパやママを怖い目に遭わせたくないだろう。
It is kind of weird that they seem to have no problem accepting a dude in his 20s constantly hanging out with their daughter without any true rhyme or reason for it, to the point where she refers to him as her brother.
よかったわね、まゆみ。おじいちゃんが生きていたらどんなに喜んでくれたかしら。
Either way, Mayumi typically assists Naoto when he is in action at Igarashi's secret laboratory by giving him advice or sending out whatever vehicles he may need at that moment in time. Jiban has 3 vehicles that he will utilize in battle, all of which have their own AI system. There is a police car, which gets used the most. A motorcycle, and some sort of airship. Naoto is also supported by another AI system that stays in the lab named Boy, which is later upgraded with another living machine to create Haley Boy.
僕の記憶を再生して指輪をはめている映像があったら徹底的に分析してくれ。
了解。
Halfway through the show, Mayumi is captured by Biolon, which leads to her disappearing for a while and coming back with amnesia while being protected by an on-the-run criminal named Ryu Hayakawa.
また思い出そうとしていたの？
お兄ちゃん、私本当の名前なんて言うの？どこに住んでいたの？
みどりちゃん。
どうしても思い出せない。どうしても。
Five-Man fans should recognize Hayakawa, for he was 5 black there.
モナリザを破壊させてたまるか。モナリザは僕の女神だ。
女神だと？ふざけるな。
The reason for this drastic shakeup is because Mayumi's actress, Konomi Mashita, was one of Japan's biggest child stars in the 80s. Her schedule was full of multiple projects at one time that also included hosting a variety show of sorts. Thus, she was unable to be a part of Jiban full-time. It's not surprising to learn she was popular back then, as her acting capabilities put most of the other actors in this show to shame.
博士のことを思い出していたのかい？
お兄ちゃん、まゆみ、パパとママに内緒にしているのが辛いの。おじいちゃんやお兄ちゃんのことどうしても言っちゃいけないの？言っちゃいけないの？
Even our lead hero, Hiroshi Tokoro, couldn't hold a candle to her.
お兄ちゃん。
僕のせいだ。気づかれないように注意していたのに。
お兄ちゃん、まゆみこれ以上秘密にしておけない。ママがかわいそう。
It's also interesting to learn that Tokoro left the acting world to be a lawyer. He also played the paper crane ninja in Jiraiya. Back to Naoto, he is required to keep his identity a secret from those he worked with in the hopes it will reduce the danger put towards them. Naturally, being cops, we all know that isn't going to be the case, but it's a nice gesture. Naoto acts like he is a bumbling idiot, so his team thinks he is just goofing off when Jiban is around to avoid suspicion.
陽子先輩、無事だったんですね。直人、今までどこを付き合いたんだ。すいません。ちょっと道に迷っちゃって。
彼がジバンだなんて私の思い過ごしだったんだわ。
Idiot! There is a short-lived moment where Yoko wonders if Naoto is actually Jiban.
もしかしたら彼が木戸刑事ジバン。まさか。
Speaking of whom, Yoko doesn't have the most graceful of introductions, as she comes across really pathetic in the first episode, where I thought we were going to get a repeat of Mimi from Gavon. Thankfully, that was not to be the case from episode 2 onward. Yoko ended up being an extremely competent cop who was sometimes a far more interesting character than Naoto.
先輩。
ナオト、私から絶対離れちゃダ
It is a shame we didn't end up learning anything about Yoko's life outside of the police force, as she easily had the potential to match the likes of Lily, Annie, and even Diana and Helen despite not being a henshin hero. Yoko has a multitude of moments to show off her badassery, especially when it comes to shooting. Actress Machiko Nikita also appears in a few episodes of the Sukaben Deka TV series, though she ended up retiring from acting in 1991. Kiyoshiro Muramatsu is the other lead cop, who will often join Yoko and Naoto on a case. However, he seems to be there mostly for comic relief. The biggest problem with this stems from Jiban wanting us to take the police force genuinely, and rightly so, but then give us an actual bumbling idiot to contend with. It can often clash with the tone the series is trying to portray, especially when there isn't too much done with this character.
Yeah. 今度のことで奴に間違いない。芸術を破壊しようなんて絶対に許せん。何が何でもこの村松京志郎様が絶対に対応してやる。
On the other hand, we seem to learn more about him than we do Yoko. He has a sister who ends up getting mixed up in a Biolon plot. He also hates the countryside.
それに僕は田舎は大嫌いなんだ。なんて言ったってシティボーイですからね。
The worst bit about his character is he seems like he is supposed to be the one in charge of Central City's precinct, but then Kunio Kanishi must act perverted and moronic at the same time.
This この思いは今まで僕の胸にだけ秘めていたが、今だから言う。陽子ちゃん、陽子ちゃん、僕は必ず君を見つけて。
It's jarring. There's another cop who tends to just sit in the agency and do nothing other than be there for exposition purposes, named Michiyo Matsumoto. It seems she has a crush on Naoto, though nothing is ever done with her to say for sure.
Hi, Ota.
ありがとう。
Naotoさん元気出して。
元気はあるけどさ。
She's kind of just there, I guess, to be the positive outlook on life. Manabu from Jiraiya makes an appearance in an episode, which was totally unexpected. Still, having Manabu there means the show is set in the same universe as Jiraiya. Thus, aliens exist, which allows a late addition to the villains makes sense. It was pretty cool seeing Manabu in action, who is clearly going through puberty. Jiban does get an upgraded form in the last third of the series, which sees him wielding a drill and an arm grapple claw thing.
The claw is our master. Claw chooses who will go and who will stay.
He also wields a giant freaking bazooka that is used to dispatch monsters. One of my favorite scenes with this is when Jiban is being attacked and he tosses the bazooka into the arms of a group of grunts so he can contend with them using his fists.
Kidou Keiju Jiban はいかなる場合でも令状なしに犯人を逮捕することができるパワーブレーカー第2条 Kidou Keiju Jiban は
I really like the overall design of Jiban, as the silver with what appears to be blue highlights mesh together very well. The light up eyes are pretty cool, and I love how he tends to move like a robot even though he is perfectly fine when he is disguised as Naoto. Besides the weapons I mentioned a moment ago, he also switches back and forth between a baton and a gun. He loves to pull out his badge and recite the laws he has been tasked with ad nauseum.
serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
Finally, he also receives a jetpack. The villains. Biolon is led by a scientist named Dr. Giba. Dr. Giba is played by Leo Moneghetti, who was previously seen in the Metal Heroes franchise as Annie's dad in Shider. Moneghetti was an American military officer who often took acting gigs in various series and movies to help pass the time when he wasn't on duty. He also played Dr. Asimov in the 1993 version of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
Giba-sama! Giba-sama! Giba-samaったらもう
Ugh, quick! Summon an exorcist! They did have Shozo Izuka dub over his voice, which I'm unsure as to whether it was because he was not fluent enough in the language to do the task himself, or if Toei wanted Izuka to continue the tradition of being a main villain in the Metal Heroes franchise.
やがて野菜が東京を覆い尽くし毒とガスで誰も住めなくなる無血占領とはまさにこのことだ
Either way, it is very distracting to see Moneghetti's mouth constantly move and hearing Izuka's voice come out, which is not in sync with Moneghetti's lips at all. It's quite distracting and annoying.
インコスモは分子譜も作っていたのか素晴らしいマシャカーシャゴーレムコスモを徹底的に分析して私のファイルに収めるのだはいドラノイドどんどんお化け野菜を東京にばらまき暴れさせろ
Dr. Giba is extremely brilliant and creates his crime syndicate from scratch. Towards the halfway point, it is revealed that Giba himself is a bioorganic creature, leaving you pondering why he takes up the guise of a human, especially when there will be long stretches of him not even in human form.
忍びノイド今回の作戦は分かっているなはいシンクタンクを
It seems like this excuse was because Moneghetti had to constantly return to the States for one reason or another. Anyway, as the main villain, Dr. Giba comes off as a credible threat despite often sitting at his desk doing little to nothing beyond barking orders. So, like your typical crime boss. He does get a touch of development in the finale, which reminded me of Rancic in Power Rangers Time Force. His top two assistants are two girls by the name of Marsha and Karsha.
これで私たちがどんどん活躍できるわけね世界は私たちのものよ
ビオロン万歳万歳
Like Giba, they also have monster forms but prefer to stay disguised as humans.
逃げられると思うのお前の命はもらったわよ
Their job is to traverse Japan to scope out whatever advances are happening in the realms of science and technology that could be used to further Biolon's grasp on humanity. They occasionally participate in battle, often getting their butts whooped. I do like the designs of their monster forms. They are played by Ami Kawaii.
だけどギバ様東京壊滅作戦を実行に移す前に私たちに機動刑事地盤の正体を探らせてください
And Akemi Kogawa.
この町で野菜が増殖しているのはほんの小手調べであの巨大なタワーから超音波が出たらどうなると思う日本中にばらまいた野菜たちが一斉に増殖し始めて
Kawaii would also return to another Sugimura-based series as she played Lami in Zyuranger. About a third of the way into the series, Dr. Giba builds an antithesis to Jiban with a cyborg bionoid named Mad Garble. Mad Garble is meant to be Jiban's equal in matching everything he can do, hopefully better. Mad Garble is voiced by Kazuko Yanaga.
私に勝てると思っているのかジバ貴様の力を全て分析して私は作られたのだ
I can't really say that I was all that impressed with Mad Garble in the long run. For a character being hailed as the Jiban killer, she rarely put him to the test outside of her debut. Her design is wicked badass in the way that only Amameya could provide. Voice actors Yutaka Oyama and Kotoi Taichi lend their talents to a group of little creatures that hang out in Giba's lab.
お前はなんだなんだ
俺は大霊界への道案内人だ
This includes the plant-looking monstrosity Booby and the rejected Furby look-alike named Muku and its offspring, I think? For the most part, they do nothing but cheer on whatever Giba's plot of the week is. Muku just tends to mimic Booby.
人間を無能な家畜にしろ人間を無能な家畜にしろ
女だけの帝国なんていいじゃない。私憧れちゃうな。
何が女の帝国だ。
なんであんたが出てくんだよ。もう黙ってなさいよ、もう。
女は怖い。女は怖い。
The only time Booby truly did anything relevant was in the premiere when he became a huge monster. The grunts of the series are simply called masks. They tend to wield a machine gun and a knife as if they are nothing more than goons to a standard mafia. They wear black and white masks, along with black bomber jackets. The masks are so weak that even Yoko can take them out with ease. If you have not figured it out by now, the monsters of the week are called Bionoids. They are organic-like creatures Dr. Giba has grown, each one having some sort of theme to represent them. Their designs are all friggin' fantastic, with some being outright creepy. I think the most standout of them is the one named Suicide Noid. What the what? Some of my other favorites include Kabuki Noid,
石川や浜野正子は尽きるとも世にバイオロンの種は尽きまじ怪物細胞返してもらおう
Octopus Noid, Tempo Bell Noid, Double Noid,
Is breakfast over?
No, why?
Because I think the bacon just ran out.
Mushroom Noid,
区別濃いやつをお見舞いしてやる奉仕か
and the Pizza Noid, whose specialty was to turn pizzas into cardboard.
Have you ever been frustrated because the Noid ruined your pizza? The Noid loves to ruin pizza.
There is one final villain who makes her presence known halfway through the series. Her name is Queen Cosmo, and she comes from the moon? Oh, what? Remember, I said Manabu appearing means that this show takes place in the same universe as Jiraiya, meaning aliens exist. So yeah, it makes sense. Okay, it doesn't really make sense, but just go with it. Queen Cosmo has come to Earth to... Actually, I don't know why she has come to Earth. Her motivations are never quite clear, even in her final adventure. She wanted to take over the planet because her race couldn't survive on the moon anymore, or something like that.
やがて私はこの地球に女だけの帝国を築き上げ、女王として君臨することになる。美しいものは周りもすべて美しいものでうずめ尽くさなければならない。
Frankly, she amounted to absolutely nothing. If you removed her from the show, nothing would have changed one bit. She sometimes works with Giba, sometimes doesn't. At one point they agree to work together to take out Jiban, but then we rarely see that occur because they are still working against each other. I don't know. Cosmo was a complete waste of time and is what ultimately hurt the show as a whole. Personally, I think her character should have gone one of two ways. She was a bionoid secretly created by Giba to motivate his minions to do their jobs better as they have someone competing against them. The other option was having her be the one who originally created Giba, but then he went rogue on her and wanted the Earth for himself. I'm sure others in the world have ideas that could have been used and probably would have been superior to what we got. I can't even say Yoko Asakura did anything to make Queen Cosmo stand out.
あの世に送る前に、お前たちに目の保養をさせてあげるわ。
She kind of just played her by the book, as if Sugimura was hoping she would be the next Raider and Yoki. Instead, Cosmo worked against him. The effects and music. The music to the show has such an interesting backstory that it kind of overshadows anything that I could say about the effects work. Apparently, Jiraiya's composer, Kei Wakakusa, was supposed to score the show, but could not do so at the last minute for whatever reason. Toei had then hired Michiaki Watanabe to do the music, who had been the composer on Gavin Through Spielbahn. This could have been really cool, but by the time they hired Watanabe to work on the show, they were in the 0 hour of the first episode having to be shipped out to networks, and thus just randomly inserted his works from the previous series he scored into the show and sent it off. This angered Watanabe as they did not ask for his permission to use his older music before doing so, and he immediately quit the company. He allowed Toei to purchase his library of tracks, resulting in Toei just having someone select music from the vast library to give Jiban a soundtrack. This meant that 90% of Jiban's BGM was a complete reuse of everything that came before it. Well, they made it work. It would have been awesome to have heard what could have been done for the show given its cop drama nature. Instead, we're left with rehashes like this. Don't get me wrong, I love the music from the previous series Watanabe did, and tracks like this are really cool, but as a whole, I'm just listening to the music that came from somewhere else with little to nothing in the way of newness. Akira Kushida once again sings the opening and ending themes. Kidou Keiju Jiban is a pretty solid opening, and I like the metallic sound Kushida has used over his voice to add to the robotic characterization of Jiban himself. Meanwhile, this is all I can think of whenever I hear Ashita Yoho wa Itsumo Hare.
Mentos, the fresh maker.
There's actually a few tracks that I found here that sound like they came out of a Mentos commercial.
Mentos, the fresh maker.
Also, this track played in episode 33 is pretty bad. This may be the worst insert song I have ever heard in any Toku show. For the effects, Jiban is similar to Jiraiya in that there is a lot of excellent choreography going on, but not very much movement in the camera work. My favorite fight comes from this bit where Jiban and the Bionoid are fighting, and we get to see the reflection of the battle in the water, reminding me of the Ultra 7 King Joe fight. There's also some outstanding puppetry, as we see with a centipede monster. I could have done without the child centipede moment, though. The episodes. Jiban has a lot of great ideas and concepts going for it that makes it exciting to watch. Harkening back to the Space Sheriff series, while getting a tried and true crime drama writer to helm the show was ingenious. It really helped set Jiban apart from the shows that came before it. It also allowed Sugimura to stretch his artistic skills because he didn't have to remain grounded. I was somewhat fearful, given Jiban himself is a robot protagonist, that we were going to have another situation of our lead hero being an utter bore to watch. Thankfully, Sugimura gave Naoto a personality, which I guess stems from him being a human turned into a cyborg rather than a cyborg through and through. It also helped that Naoto has a strong supporting cast to make up for his shortcomings acting-wise. As I said earlier, Mashita steals every scene she is in despite her age, which is why it was a shame she ended up being absent for a lot of the second half. She still played a pivotal role and was there when the story absolutely needed her to be, but I can't help but wonder how much more Jiban could have been narratively had Mashita been able to commit to the show full time. Another interesting aspect of Jiban is we don't actually learn about his origin story until episode 11, making this the longest time to learn how our main protagonist became the titular hero. Then there is the theme of science and technology. Jiban is the hero, whose entire existence is based on technology. Meanwhile, Biolon is made up of bioorganic beings created using science and nature. It's a nice twist to have the villains be organic beings battling technology, when typically a Toku show would be the opposite of that. I will say my biggest issue with Jiban, outside of Queen Cosmo, is how slow the series starts out. The first 10 episodes are quite a slog, and there is a bit of slowdown in the middle. There is enough originality and freshness to keep the viewer engaged, but if you are looking for non-stop plot, this is definitely not the show for you. The tone manages to balance the seriousness with touches of comedy that don't get too silly most of the time. In fact, like with its lead character, Jiban does Metalder better than Metalder. The themes may not stem from something as dour as World War II. Jiban takes the good ideas of Metalder and improves upon them in every category. There is only one episode of Jiban I can truly say I absolutely despise, and that was episode 36, The Dreaming Sword Fighting Monster. I don't even know if I can properly explain what this episode was about because I was just lost as to anything that was going on. A samurai warrior comes to learn he is actually a bionoid and not a samurai. This upsets him and he is tasked with having to defeat Jiban, the ultimate opponent. Sword-fighting Noid for some reason falls in love with Yoko, thinking she is the reincarnated princess he loved during the feudal era, and kidnaps her. She apparently comes down with a touch of Stockholm Syndrome as she begins to feel sorry for him and tries to stop Jiban from killing him. Or some shit like that. All I know is the episode was a total bull. Very incoherent, and Yoko felt out of character. It also featured some of the most painful audio to stomach, as everyone seemed to be screaming their lines into mics that were engulfed in tinfoil or something. That also did not help following this episode, as it was hard to keep focused.
ちょっと聞きたいことがあるんですけど。警察には用はない。おい、うまく化けたつもりだろうが、尻尾が見えてるぞ、尻尾が。何?
My favorite episode is a toss-up between episode 12's Yoko and Pero and the 23rd episode, The Monster Who Ate Too Many Manga. Yoko and Pero is just an episode centered around Yoko and features her being all kinds of badass. She almost realizes Naoto is Jiban, gets kidnapped, and and then has to escape from Biolon's clutches. It was one of the few episodes to not feature an actual Bionoid, which was pretty awesome. Meanwhile, the monster who ate too many manga revolves around Goatnoid eating all of the books found in libraries and stores around Central City. He ends up eating a striving manga artist's work, and it gives him a stomachache due to how bad it was.
どうした？命令が聞こえなかったの？
その前に薬を胃腸薬を。
あ、またお前変なもん食べたんだね。
すみません。みんなには散々バカにされるしな。
あ、そんなこと言われたって。
お前には少女漫画は向いてない。
Goatnoid then kidnaps the artist and forces him to draw a story of him kicking Jiban's ass. It was over the top in ridiculousness, yet was such an engaging episode that it stuck in my mind throughout the remainder of the series, as it perfectly had the aforementioned balance of drama and comedy. The movie. Jiban had a single movie for a festival. As with the majority of these Metal Heroes movies, they're more like theatrical episodes. This Jiban one features a Bionoid kidnapping kids at a museum, and Yoko goes along for the ride. Jiban has to rescue them. We are treated to some really great fight sequences. The Bionoid designs are pretty cool, and we get this great claymation bit. In fact, this monster is just utter perfection. It's also the first time we learn that Dr. Giba is not actually a human, as he takes off his head. The Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is pretty simple. It has a slipcase. The case art. The back and spine are the same that was on the slip, and it has one disc. This is without a doubt my least favorite Blu-ray Discotech has done thus far, given it's an SD Blu-ray. It was a given the show is not going to be in HD, and for being in standard def, it does look pretty cool. It's like watching it slightly better than what DVD can provide. However, the audio is atrocious. Typically for a Toku show, I only need to turn up my receiver between 18 to 22 depending on the show. For Jiban, I had to go up to 32 due to how abysmal it sounds, and even that was sometimes too low. There were also 2 episodes where the audio was louder than all others, which had me turning my receiver back down to normal levels. While I already discussed the issues with episode 36's sound. Subtitles continue the trend of having yellow subs for dialogue and blue subs in the upper left hand corner for the music. Subtitles themselves are fine, and I only noticed an occasional error like when they accidentally left the L out of Explosionoid's name. Which did make it pretty funny. The only bonus features to be found are the series promo and a photo gallery that contains some cool drawings of Jiban and the monsters. Jiban was a pretty enjoyable show despite its slow start, inconsistent tone with its cops, and subplots that amounted to absolutely nothing. Therefore, I am going to give Robocop Jiban a solid 4 out of 5 grown-ups in spandex. Sugimura had a strong start by merging together what he had learned about cop dramas with traditional Toku elements. Jiban is a show that is definitely worth checking out, especially since you can do so legally on Blu-ray. Until next time, bye!
先輩、ジバンはやられたりしません。バイオロンがどんな卑怯な手段を使ってきても。
たくそな歌、すごい音痴。